Hey everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Four Friends in a Book podcast. My name is Chris Colston. I'm here with my friends Isaiah Tukes, Kimberly Lake, Laria Reed, and this book for the month of February, The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks by Rebecca Skloot. All right. So, look, if you guys aren't familiar, Four Friends in a Book is our monthly podcast series where we have a discussion centered around a book that we're reading together. So, we meet here to talk about that book,
Mm-hmm.
to discuss it, and also talk about things that may or may not relate to it. So, somewhat of a book club mixed with book review, mixed with just table talk amongst friends. And at the end, of course, we hit you with these rants from none other than my brother, Mr. Rant Man himself, Isaiah Tooth. So again, if you're new to Four Friends in a Book, tell a friend and tell a friend about it. Definitely go back and check out some old episodes. Get caught up current with Four Friends in a Book podcast because we read books up
Mm-hmm.
here and we have great conversations. So,
Mm-hmm.
all right, let's get into it. Let's not delay at all. Book for this month. We're in the month of February, Black History Month, and it was very fitting that we are studying the immortal life of Henrietta Lacks. So by Rebecca Skloot. Not sure if you guys are familiar with Henrietta Lacks, but this book was definitely very enlightening. A lot of good history, a lot of background. And I was actually I learned a lot. I'm gonna read a quick excerpt, a little summary to kind of set the tone for it, and we'll get into it and discuss this book. So, her name was Henrietta Lacks, but scientists
Mm-hmm.
know her as HeLa. She was a
Mm-hmm.
poor southern tobacco farmer who worked the same land as her slave ancestors, yet her cells, taken without her knowledge, became one of the most important tools in medicine. HeLa cells were vital in developing the polio vaccine, uncovered secrets of cancer, viruses, and the atom bomb effects, help lead help lead to important advances like in vitro fertilization, cloning,
Mm-hmm.
gene mapping. It has been bought and sold by the billions. So again, that is the background of Henrietta Lacks and these HeLa cells. And so let's get into this book, The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks by Rebecca Skloot. Look, you already know what it is. First question: how did you feel about the book? And if you had to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, what would that be? And look, man, look, I'm gonna kick this one off. I'm gonna start this one off myself.
Okay.
Look, I always ask
Tell
y'all
us how
first,
you feel.
I'm gonna jump into this one. So I definitely was familiar with I was familiar with Henrietta Lacks, but I didn't know to the extent that these cells have been utilized. And I'm gonna be a little honest, man. I was a little skeptical about this book. I was a little skeptical about Rebecca being able to really tell the story. Uh, but I think she did an amazing job. It's a good blend of history. And look, y'all know I love history. So it was a good blend of history plus just the importance of these cells, what they've done for humanity. I mean, you look, y'all know I'm a little nerd. I'm an engineer by profession, so I put my little scientist hat on. I was nerding out with the biology and the science of this as well. So good book for me. Good read, a good blend of history plus science, and plus just kind of showing how important, how vital these cells were. Very eye opening as well. Just hearing some of the background, some of the history, some of the things that were done back in the day. I mean, Henrietta passed away in 1951, and just hearing how some of the medical research at that time was done, some of the things that were done unknowing to patients. It's just very eye opening that I wasn't really aware of, but it was a good selection for me. So if I had to rate this book, Hmm, I'm thinking a 7. It was a good 7 for me uh for this month for this book, The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks by Rebecca Skloot. So look, I'm opening the floor up since I kicked this one off. I'm gonna come to Miss Laria Reed next. What you got for me?
Um, well, all of what you said was true. It does have a lot of history. I was ignorant
to Henrietta Lacks. I kept hearing about it, but I didn't really, I was just like, oh, okay. They took her sales. I didn't know the whole story. So, how should I say this? I do not like people telling another person's story without their consent, in a sense. And what I mean by that, especially her medical history and her husband, and I just felt like it was so intrusive, and she's not here or she wasn't around to give her permission, in a sense, to me, for the depth that they went in the book. And I'm not saying it's the author's fault. I'm just saying I just felt like violation after violation to me.
Just wrong, huh?
Just yeah, it's like you done took her cells. She gone. She's gone to this hospital. She thinking she good, then she ain't good. Then her husband, I'm mad at him. How he doing in these streets? Got her all
Right.
messed up. It was a lot. Like I just I don't know if it was just the morality of it that really bothered me, because that's just the way I am. I don't like invading in people's privacy, especially medical privacy. So I don't know. But anyway, that bothered me about the book. I don't know why. It just kind of kept coming, because I was like, oh my God, I don't want to. And I was listening on Audible, and I just felt so cringy at times. Like, and then the family not getting paid for any of this, like all the money that they made off of it. I'm just talking about the moral sense of it. That was the part that really, as my mama says, got my goose. but but it was well written. I think that she reported the facts. She did the best that she could with all of those things. I just didn't like. I guess I don't know, but it's still a story. But I don't know. I don't know how to put into words what I'm trying to say, but I hope it's coming across the right way.
We got it. We got it.
Yeah. But I would give the book, and see, that's why I'm kind of torn, because I'm like, I mean, it is the history, it is the facts, and it was well written, but I just don't like, I don't know. But so I give it a 7. I give it a 7.
Okay. I was like, that was better than I was expecting. I thought you was about to pull up Isaiah and go for like
Three.
a 2.
No, I didn't. I mean, because she told the story as to what actually happened, and it was well written, and it was very easy to read. So I mean, I can't knock her for that. It was just the morality of it. Like I said, I just didn't like it.
Okay. Okay. I understand that. Coming to my brother Isaiah, man. What do you think about this book, The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks by Rebecca Skloot?
Miss
Oh
Skloot.
Lord. Oh Lord.
He
Oh
said
Lord.
Miss Clue.
Miss
well,
Lucas.
well, first I want to start with I didn't know a lot about Miss Henrietta Lacks, or the extent of, like you said, about this cell research. And what affected me most was I just can't imagine that parts of my deceased family member is just divided among the world and for purposes unknown to me. And we didn't know what was going. The family didn't know what was going on. I'm saying we, because it integrated in me, I guess. The family didn't know what was going on for 20 years, that these sales was even out, even with the consent of her husband, Day, saying that he never signed anything. So that's a weird scenario that I can't even get over, as that. But her daughter Deborah even said that Henrietta cells have lived longer than outside the body than they have lived inside the body. So I can only feel the emotion as basically her children are going through this process of trying to figure everything out. You're constantly telling me that my mom's cells are saving the world and they're doing all this research, but me over here, hey, I have no basic medical health care. I can't even go to the doctor to even take care of myself if I have a common cold. So just imagine looking on the outside for those, and I'm just saying in those kids' perspective, and not just even with her mom died, but it looked like things went from bad to worse with them. Like family members tried to molest them. You have one of the childs wanted to commit suicide and sleeping on the ground rather than even going into his father's home. Like it was just a lot of things, a lot of torment that those actually kids face, and that's what they don't see. Like you got the sales, but you don't understand of the torment that this family has to go through. And even when the notion of the HeLa sales was actually being revealed, and they found out who this person was, and they actually went after their family member just trying to get a quick story to make $1, but don't understand that the emotion that came behind this family. So I cannot bear understanding that the emotion and the pain that they actually went through or going through with this. But I do have to give some props of it. It has, like you say, it's a silver line at the ending. Bobette, Henrietta's daughter-in-law. Now, I'm so glad that she actually stepped in and she actually helped comfort those kids, especially the daughter Deborah, when she found out what was going on within, someone actually trying to touch her, and she was actually trying to raise her actually those are her actually brothers and sister-in-law. So outside of not trying to raise your own kids, but you're also trying to help raise your brother and sister-in-laws as well too. So there was a lot to take on as well too. But it was just a lot going on this. It was like peeling the onion, like you learned something new going through the chapters. And I was overall impressed with basically the research and the depth of it. But like L'Oreal said, like it was just like a slightly violation of like, I'm reading somebody medical history, like I don't know. I guess the consent went with when they actually gave the family gave consent of actually writing this story, but it was just a lot going on. But overall the book was done, good research. I enjoyed the book as well too. It's just that that reading her medical history, I enjoyed that as well too. But I rate the book a 7 as well.
Okay, look, boy, I was not expecting that. When you when you started
Love Miss
off,
Skloot.
yeah, and you dropped the Arthur name, I was like, oh Lord, my boy about to hit her with a 1. I just knew you was gonna go in. So all right,
The
well look, we
the research saved her. I wanted to go low, but the research saved her.
okay. And even speaking on that, I mean, this was a 10-year process. I mean, so
Mm-hmm.
Rebecca spent 10 years developing the story, doing the
Mm-hmm.
research, not only talking about Henrietta and the sales, but also even giving the background, as you guys mentioned, on the family,
Mm-hmm.
the upbringing of Henrietta. Her marriage, her kids, their lives. So just a profound amount of information and research went into even writing this story. So yeah, I think that is a
Mhm.
very telling testament to just the effort that was put into it. So
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It was.
all right, coming to Kimberly Lake next. What are you thinking? Look, we got 3 sevens now. You gonna bring it on in?
I am not. So
And
say
you thought it was me.
no. So I listened to the book on Audible.
Mm-hmm.
I like Isaiah and Laria. I was familiar with Henrietta Lacks. I knew like Oprah made a movie.
Mm-hmm.
I heard about it, but I didn't know the whole story behind it. So I did enjoy hearing Henrietta's story. I think with Miss Skloot, as Isaiah says, for me, I research was like almost too much for me.
Mm-hmm.
So like listen to the book, like she might talk about Henrietta, then she'll talk about a doctor, but then she'll talk about like a newspaper article. She just went really in depth, which is good. I'm saying for a
Mm-hmm.
biography or memoir or whatever, but I think for me it was just a little too much. Like I
Mm-hmm.
could have split the book into like the history part of it and then like Henrietta's story. So
Mm-hmm.
when it got to Henrietta's story and her family, I enjoyed that part. But
Mm-hmm.
with all the research, it kind of like took me out of it just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Also on Audible, I did feel a little way because it's a white lady narrating it. So when she went to the black voices, I was kind of like, okay, it's a little,
It was.
a little bit,
You're going
but
a little too far.
Oh, I didn't know that part. Okay.
yeah. So I was like, okay. But other than that, I
Mm-hmm.
did enjoy learning about her story. It's
Mm-hmm.
sad what happened with them. I'm glad they had a good ending as of last year, as good as they
Mm-hmm.
could have,
Right.
But
Mm-hmm.
if I were to rate the book, I would give it a 6
Hmm.
for my personal enjoyment.
Look, you done came out the fold. We was
Yeah,
rolling over here, and you the Isaiah to show this time. So
I am.
all right, so 3 sevens and a 6 from Kimberly Lake. All right, I mean we kind of uniform, so I guess we were
Yeah.
still kind
Mm-hmm.
of tracking. And you guys all bring up good points. I mean, it is a mixture of like hearing about the sales, hearing about the science, hearing about the research and just the medical industry itself, but also hearing about the history of the family, hearing about the upbringing, hearing about the kids and their journey, even to Isaiah's point of some of their um, childhood traumas, just issues they've had growing up, even without a mother, and just some of that
Mm-hmm.
that
Mhm.
process.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of leads to my next question. So, I mean, there was some positive aspects, and there's also been some criticism. So, Kim just mentioned it. It has been turned to a movie. HBO did a movie.
Mm-hmm.
I think Oprah Winfrey was the executive producer, and she also starred in the movie The
Mm-hmm.
Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. So, I think that brought a lot of attention to the story as well. But there has been some criticism, even about how Loria mentioned. It may come off as being kind of intrusive as far as just the history and the background of the family. I mean, like I said, we
Mm-hmm.
knew for so long about the sales or somewhat of the sales, but then just telling the story of the family and some of those
Mm-hmm.
narratives, and I think the family themselves have kind of had some conflict as far as how the story is being told as well. So just kind of want to get you guys thoughts and opinions on that. Like, what did you feel overall as far as Rebecca's ability to tell this story of Henrietta Lacks, and not only the HeLa sales but her family as well. I'll cut to my brother Isaiah, man. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, from reading the book, it's obvious that you can see that the author actually spent a lot of time with the family. She went so much into detail, like even down to going. But it's just like the detail of back in the 1950s of how the cancer symptoms even came about. Like the detail of, I don't know who remembered that, or
Right.
or what did she even hear that from as well too? Or when she went to the doctor, the is it the radon or the radium that they actually gave her? But I like the detail and the research. It just like it was, you were split with is it a violation or do you want to keep going? Because like you
Right.
say, I got a science background as well too, so I understand that process as well. But it was really a lot. But at the same time, I cannot blame Henrietta's family for pushing back. Like, you cannot tell me that my mom cells are going to space and then you want to come and get my story. Like, no, you bringing too much at me. And like you say, they come from a impoverished world and they don't understand what's going on. All they know is their mom is in a grave. Now you coming out the woodwork of 20 years later say no, she actually got cells, and her cells did this with cancer, her cells did this with polio. So I can understand the researchers. I said I think she did a really good, remarkable job with the research. It just was a lot to take in. And
Mhm.
and some of the family members even resentful of the billions of dollars that their mom actually made towards this research. But hey, I can't even go to the doctor to get medical care even if I got a cold. So I'm split 50-50 with that as well too. But I do appreciate the author taking the time to to learn her family, get to know her family as well, and to tell her story.
Yeah, so Kim, what are your thoughts on that? Just Rebecca's ability to kind of tell the story of Henrietta Lacks, the events, the HeLa sales. Like, what are your thoughts about that?
I think she did a good job telling her story. I thought it caught the essence of Henrietta. Like, you learned about, she was beautiful, her personality, all like
Mhm.
it humanized her story. It wasn't just about the
Right.
cells. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's what won her family over, because everybody else just wanted to know about the cells and like, but she really
Mm-hmm.
wanted to know about the woman behind everything. So I
Right.
Mm-hmm.
appreciated that about the story.
Mm-hmm.
She was, I mean, she's very pushy and persistent, so I'll give her that to in order to get the story. But I have nothing else to say. That's it. Like that's it. Yeah.
That's
Okay.
funny.
Okay. Yeah, I think for me, again, I thought she did a good job.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was, again, she heard about this in a biology class when she was in high school, or she was taking some class at a community college or something, and
Mm-hmm.
so that fascination sparked the interest for her to go beyond that notion of what these HeLa cells were, and try to get more background information to try to uncover who the actual person of Henrietta Lacks was,
Mhm.
because for so
Mm-hmm.
long the name was a mystery. It was just HeLa, and
That's true.
even in the early years, they were even getting the name wrong, so there was no recognition. Even the family didn't even know, because for the
Mm-hmm.
longest they were actually using a different name or referring to these HeLa
Mhm.
cells by a different person. So um, again, the amount of research I think that went into it was definitely evident. Like I said, a 10-year journey. uh, I thought Rebecca did a good job. I would
Mm-hmm.
applaud her for the amount of research, To Kim's point earlier, it could have almost been two books because it is kind of split between uh, some of the science, the technical background portion of it, and also just the like the
Mm-hmm.
biography of Henrietta herself. So I think for some people that may be a bit overwhelming. I was talking to one friend that was like it was like reading a textbook. So it was like I think that might have been kind of some of that
Mm-hmm.
overwhelming aspects of it. But I think she did a good job. I was, good enough for Oprah to pick it up. Like when Oprah get on board, it's it got to be somewhat, of a good thing, and to actually bring it to the big screen on HBO. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, I I thought she did a good job with the story. A lot of information that again I wasn't even conscious of or aware of. So, I think she brought it on home.
Mhm.
Yeah, Larry, do you have any input at all on that, or just her
Not
overall
really.
ability?
None at all.
I mean, it was well. I think that her research assisted with a lot of what happened with their family,
Mm-hmm.
um, and that was a godsend on that end. Now, once again, the intrusiveness and the morality side of how she was able to write all of that, yes, she went all in deep, but it did, and I'm piggybacking off of Kim about the whole how she
Mm-hmm.
humanized her because I would have never thought about how she had her cousins at the house and she was like, "Something inside of me, and I feel something here," and the tumors that she had in her body, and oh, I'm just gonna go in and walking in the hospital by herself. All those details is just so like, man, this lady was just a regular person like me. And so I enjoyed that side of um,
Mm-hmm.
Miss Rebecca and how she told the story. That really, and I believe because she did such a great job, it made me feel like I was in somebody's business versus, being so far back away from it. So
No,
yeah.
no.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, it's also weird. I think that this book has also been banned as well. So it's showed up on the ban list in certain schools, certain libraries, and so
It's
again,
bad.
I
Why?
don't know why.
yeah. So one of the comments is just I guess the maybe the intrusiveness, but also I think they're talking about like the sexual overtones or the content as far as her even discovering the tumor. People are finding any reason they can to
Do
try to
they know what
ban
their
the book.
kids listen to?
Right.
That was like body parts versus
Yeah,
mm,
yeah.
anyway.
So we kind of touched on it, and again, it's the kind of the foundational premise of this book, talking about these HeLa cells and how they were obtained. So Henrietta goes in to the doctor. She
Mm-hmm.
finds out that she has cervical cancer. Doing the surgery to try to remove or to, she was going through this radiation treatment.
Mm-hmm.
The doctor, unbeknownst to her, took a sample, and that became the foundation for these
Mm-hmm.
HeLa cells and how they have been widely used for other research because they were easily replicated. There
Mm-hmm.
was no information or any informed consent about what was taking place. It was more so like, hey, we're doing this to kind of help and save you. And even after the fact, they got to the point of doing blood work on the kids, and then still it was more so of, hey, we're doing this to kind of make sure you guys don't have what your mother may have had. So just this whole notion of informed consent in the medical research industry and arena, and also just really having like autonomy over your body, and even your biological material. So again, the fact that you can go in for a procedure and unbeknownst to you, something could uh, be taken away or taken removed from your body and used in another manner. Like, what are you guys' thoughts about that? Was this book even eye opening in that regard, as far as kind of shedding some light on some stuff? Um, in that aspect of like how things may work in the medical research industry and that whole aspect. And yeah, I'm gonna let Laria kick this one off. What are your thoughts
Okay.
on that?
Well, I was reading it and I was thinking Tuskegee experiment. I was thinking about the reason why so many African Americans don't trust doctors because we have stories like this. And this isn't the only, of course, her cells are reproducing,
Mm-hmm.
constantly or whatnot. But there's so many stories of people who've gone to doctors and certain things have happened while they've been there, or they've had certain things taken out, and it's kind of like, what? I didn't give you consent. And even with the childbirth, look, I'm going in a whole nother, the mortality rate for black women, when we say I'm in pain, it's kind of like, oh, you're fine, you'll be okay, versus other races. So, it's just kind of, it's one of those real touchy situations reading this, because it just kind of, it's a little triggering if you think about it, because we're always telling our counterparts, go to the doctor, you need to go get checked out, you need to go get checked out, and we're the ones with the higher diabetes rates and high blood pressure, because we've had these stories, don't go to that hospital because they did da 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 da, and and it continues. So yeah, that's the first thing that came to my mind.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And that's a good point. Even you bring up the Tuskegee experiment. I mean, so Tuskegee University, shows up in this book. They were one of the first universities that were kind of vital in the research of the polio vaccine. And to me, it was kind of interesting. So during the time of these HeLa cells was also the same time that the Tuskegee, syphilis study was going
Hmm.
on. And even how you mentioned like going in for certain procedures, like childbirth and delivery, like those placentas, like those become fair game for research, because you go in, like you're going in for this procedure, and then if it's not necessarily intended for that, I mean they kind of have ownership, or the medical
Hmm.
facility kind of has ownership, and they don't always dispose of these things. They could show up somewhere else and be used for something else. So I think that was kind of just very eye opening to me,
Mm-hmm.
that the lengths that, and I get, I understand that we have to do research to better understand situations and to kind of further our advancements within just humanity. But the manner in which they've gone and the lengths they've gone to actually to do these things was very disturbing to me. Even hearing about like the prisoners being subject to certain research, because I mean they was prisoners, so I like they, it's almost like they were kind of disposable. Or even hearing
Hmm.
about Henrietta's daughter, Deborah's sister, and how she was in a mental institution, and then the the research and the treatment that they were under. It just, it's very sad to hear the lengths that has gone through, people have gone through for the so-called advancement of like research and medical. So
I have a question.
Kim.
Oh, go ahead, Isaiah. Go.
And the reason I ask this question is because just those lists that you actually just named off of, can you imagine that when you go to a medical professional, and you think that this person is actually designed and educated to treat you the way that they're supposed to be, and they have a medical ethics that they should be following, and you trusted their judgment, what are they saying, and then things like this happen. So I kind of understand why black folks don't like going to the doctors. We push back from that because this is a ongoing story that we kind of see about, hey, if that can happen to them, that can happen to me as well too. So it kind of makes you a twofold. Like as we become more into this new generation, we become more educated in how to actually. Okay, you just can't tell me anything. Like I'm gonna go do my own research as well. But for as you medical professional, I trust you. I trust your judgment that you're trying to do the best care for me, but not also trying to take a dollar. Like whatever I leave behind, like you say, whether it be a cell, gallbladder, or an appendix, or a placenta, like, are you going to sell my stuff for research? Like you said, if it's a fair game, like who can you trust at this point?
That's true. Or even put it on the black market.
Mhm.
Hmm.
No.
Yeah.
You see that?
Yeah. And I think those are all good points. And I think those were things that were kind of highlighted. Like, I think things have gotten better since the 50s when they were just kind of doing this stuff and not telling anybody. So
Mm-hmm.
now there are consent forms. There's a certain
Mm-hmm.
notion of informed consent, but
Mm-hmm.
I feel like some of these things are probably still happening unbeknownst to us as patients.
That's true. That's so true.
Yeah.
Kim, do you have any thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, just like I agree with you all, but I remember specifically in the story when the other guy, his name started with the M, I cannot remember, when they were using his cells for something, the doctor's making money off of it, and when he
Mm-hmm.
found out because he had money, you know, he was knowledgeable and white, he
Mm-hmm.
got a lawyer, went after the doctor because they know what they be doing. Like the doctor knew because he's trying to get them consent forms and all that kind of stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
he knew,
Uh,
and it just
Yep.
made me realize just how much when you don't have the money or information, like how much you
mm-hmm.
can get taken advantage of, even at a doctor. And I even
Mm-hmm.
realized it,
Mhm.
like Henrietta's families, they're like, "Oh, just come in for blood. Like we're checking your blood," but they didn't know all that they were doing. So that
Mm-hmm.
was
Mm-hmm.
a setting, you know, because when you go to the doctor, it's all about trust. It should be,
Mhm.
and
That's true.
they're was it Hippocratic? Oh, do no harm. I think that's the first thing they say. So that includes all these ethical questions we're discussing right now. So I
That's
just
true.
think that consent is very, very, very important when it comes to these type of things.
Most
Yeah.
definitely.
That's true.
Mm. No, I agree. Yeah. So on a positive note, so here in recently, the Lax family have settled a lawsuit against a
Mhm.
biotech company for
Mm-hmm.
an undisclosed amount. So they have been compensated in some regard. These cells were initially just utilized from Johns Hopkins University, and from that point, they kind of just went widespread and a lot of biotech companies have then started harvesting those cells as well and selling them to other uh, research institutions. And so there is a lot of money being made from these cells that were taken. Again, unbeknownst to the family, unbeknownst to
Mm-hmm.
Henrietta, even at that time before her death. And so um, it's good to hear that the family has gotten some form of, I guess, financial restitution, if you can call it that, in that regard, because literally there's a company or there's an industry that's profiting off of these sales, and like I said, the family was living in poverty. I mean, they were struggling. They've gone through so much hardship. So I think that was a positive takeaway to find out that here recently. I think it was in what August of last year.
23. Mhm.
Yep, yep. So all right, guys. So look, we just finished up this book. Let me pull it up again. The Immortal Life. Oh, let me get my angles over here. Where we at? The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. Good read, good selection. A lot of history, a lot of information that I wasn't even aware of. And just kind of hearing the story of Henrietta herself. So if you guys haven't checked it out, for this, if nothing else, look, do it for the Black History for the month of February. Just learn about some of the things that we've gone through historically, and also just how you know this woman has changed the medical industry, even unbeknownst to her, with her sales. And so, um, yeah, good selection for this month.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so y'all know we don't just talk about books up here. We like to have discussions and kind of just chime in on things that may be going on, within the community, within the world, within our nation. And so, actually, pretty relevant to this book we just read, not necessarily from the scientific perspective, but just the fact of talking about, um, getting some justice, getting some due for just the struggle, the hardships, the things that people have gone through historically. And we're really talking about it from just, I guess, restitution itself. So recently, the California state lawmakers have introduced a bill for reparations in the state of California. And so really just making are setting a huge precedence because this is the first state within our country to really consider or seriously consider like restitution for Black Americans here due to slavery and the hardships and even some of the economic loss that we suffered during that time period. So again, we just talked about Henrietta Lacks, her family, and they've actually, recently repaid. for the sales of Henrietta. And so now we're having a discussion even today about the state of California considering some form of restitutions or reparations for
Mm-hmm.
Black Americans in that state. So,
Mm-hmm.
kind of want to get you guys' thoughts and opinions on that. Um, what do you think about, I guess, the state of California taking the lead on even considering reparations? I mean, we've talked about this, we heard about this for so long, but they seem to be actually really taking a stance on it now. So I kind of want to hear you guys' thoughts and opinions about that. I'm gonna come to my brother Isaiah, man. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, some don't know. I actually did the research myself as well too. That this legislative package actually tackles a wide range of issues, like from criminal justice reform to property rights, education, and health concerns. Like we're even like with the criminal justice reform, there was like eliminate the correction office to banning books. I didn't even know they banned books in prisons. Like you won't let the prisoners read. Like even above banning the books, like this legislation reform, they will actually help with the oversight of what the grants for the communities to actually decrease violence. And with the health measures, it will actually put into place of grocery stores just basically going away and be moving from undeserved communities. And actually, when people think about reparations, they only think about the money aspect of it. But with this actual legislative bill, they're actually doing more of the correcting the wrongs that were actually done to these peoples in these communities. But I actually appreciate California actually taking the lead to actually address the delayed justice that was actually done to these people. So I think more states need to follow, in suit as well too.
Okay, good. Cam Laria, do you have any? What are your thoughts about reparations as a whole, but also that California is kind of taking the lead stance in really now putting some legislation on the table and not really just kind of talking about it? Because again, we've heard these talks for so long, but now for a state to kind of finally take action is
Mm-hmm.
kind of unprecedented at this point. So, what are you guys' thoughts about that?
I'll say about time somebody did something, put it on paper like this. I
Mm-hmm.
think, as Chrissy said, is setting a precedent with other states.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is a good thing. I think it is well overdue. um, and I just go back. A lot of people like reparations. Why do you need reparations now? All that kind of stuff. But just think. I always think about like if when the slaves were actually freed, for real, like on paper when they're actually freed. And if the government really gave them that 40 acres and a mule, or really gave them a leg up, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. So,
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
mean, because it didn't happen back then, it has to be made right eventually,
That's
sometime.
right.
So, why not now? So I am always for reparations, and I'm glad California, as Isaiah said, is at least addressing it in all the areas they are addressing it. And it may not be perfect and all this other stuff, but I'm glad it's on the table. So
Mm-hmm.
Most
I'm happy.
definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Laria, what do you have any thoughts on that?
Ditto. And I believe if my grandparents were here, they'd be like, run me my money.
That's your money.
Like, give me my stuff. Y'all told us y'all were going to do this and you haven't done it. The
Run me
least you
my
can do
money.
for 400 years of me working for free in a country where I could not know my family. I had to learn a whole nother language. I had to go through all of that. And all I asked you for was 40 acres and a mule. And you couldn't come up with that. Give me my money on behalf of my granddaddy, my great, 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 and all of them. So I believe that we've done right by, well, I won't say we've done right by every other nationality, but we've done something for them.
Mm-hmm.
Even from the Native Americans to the what was it that happened in Germany?
Oh, the
Holocaust.
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 Jews.
Mm, the
And I'm
Jews.
not minimizing anything that happened in those situations, but what I'm saying is slavery was 400 years. Okay? That's a lot of work for free. Okay? So I
Or
believe something should be given. And I know they're like, well, let's get, no, you owe my great, great, great. And we're still, and I don't, well, they do know, and some people do understand that it affects generations and generations to come. we're probably the first generation as a whole where everybody could have a life insurance policy and it get filled, you know. So if something happened to us, so that we could kind of have a leg up. But yeah, it's just you just got to do right by people. If you tell somebody you're going to do something, do it. And if you don't do that, come back later and get it done and do it right. You know?
Yeah.
And slave owners got reparations too from the government, you know, as
Yeah.
well for losing
Hmm.
slaves. So
It was like a write off for them. They're like, oh, you
right.
don't have anybody to do work your fields. Okay, let's give you
Mm-hmm.
some money. But
Oh,
you
they
can't
were.
give the people who actually worked and had to, and then they were sharecropping and getting ripped off. It was just
Mm-hmm.
crazy. I mean, come
Oh,
on.
they got PPE loans.
Right.
Basically.
Okay,
Back in the day,
basically,
basically. Yep.
basically.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think you guys all make good points, and even to Kim's original point, I think had they done right the first time with the 40
Hmm.
acres and the mule, because I mean, again, they were giving land to anybody, everybody, and so we still know now that real estate is a huge um, economic empowerment force. I mean, that becomes a driver for so much, and so to think
Hmm.
about if these families that were enslaved could then come out, have access to land, have access to resources that could be then passed on to the families and their, for
Hmm.
generations to come, like how much of the economic empowerment could have came
Hmm.
from that piece. um I think the fear now is that, like y'all have said, so much time has passed. I think they don't really know how to really like pull it in, as far as how do you put an amount or a dollar or something on that. And I think that's been the fear, and that's been the reason that so many people have been so resistant to having these reparation talks and discussions. But yeah, you guys bring up a good point. So the compensated emancipation happened in 1862. So slave owners in DC were given $300 per slave after slavery was abolished. And so again, they were being compensated. Laria brought up, like, the Native Americans. We've also talked about the Japanese internment camps, where
Yes.
after um, the bombing in Pearl Harbor, and the United States went
Hmm.
in and gathered up all these Japanese Americans and put them in camps. Well, later
Hmm.
on, they were, given reparations for that time
Most
period. So
definitely.
everyone else has gotten their reparations, have gotten something, or gotten some form of restitution. And I think it is time. I think it has to happen. If they would have done it right the first time, the very first time, we wouldn't be in this situation now. But you have to make amends. You have to fix this wrong. You have to right this wrong. And that's what the definition of reparations is. And so I think California taking this step is a huge step forward. And I hope that it actually sheds some light on the bigger issue that we have in this country, and we can
For
kind of go
sure.
from there.
Yeah.
Um, so one of the things that isn't covered in this new legislative package is the fact of like cash payments. So I think they're more looking at it from the economics of, like, land that may have been taken, and just some of the missed opportunities. And I think they're just trying to figure out how to have like some uh, how to really, I guess, formalize that reckoning of that. But the cash payment option isn't really a strong proponent within this bill. So, what are you guys' thoughts on that? Like, and it could be quickly or whatever, you kind of expand on it. But do you think cash should be kind of the foundational premise of reparations, or could it show up in other forms or other measures? What are you guys' thoughts on that?
They want to give
Well,
me some land in Montana or something. I'll take it. Give me 40 acres. I'll work
Okay.
it or sell it.
run me my money.
I know. Well, I mean, what you said you was gonna do, however that goes, I need you to do it. Is the land worth the money, or is it? That's what I
Yeah.
want to know.
Okay.
Yeah, I lean
Kim,
more
Isaiah.
towards cash itself is, to me, I can take or leave. What is it? Leave or take that? Am I saying
Hmm.
that right?
Take or leave it.
Take
Take it
it.
or
Oh,
leave
thank
it.
you.
Leave it or
Take it
take
or
it.
leave it.
Yeah,
But
take it or leave it.
I think that Maria said, like, I think for me something like land, or I don't know, something that can really, because I feel like cash can be gone.
Mm-hmm.
gone like that, but like land or something that could really change like the generational wealth or give a really good economic leg up. I think I'm
Mhm.
for more something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I say cash because land really can't be recreated, so it's hard to give something that's at maximum capacity. Not saying this country is at maximum capacity, but it's hard to give that. But cash would be as well too. Not even just for you hand me hard cash, but even down to student loans, and you just see just so much stuff
Take them
that's
off.
that's taking us aback. Like even like in the recent years, like you brought 90,000 Afghans over here, which we should all help everyone. But then we sending people back from Haiti back, and you sitting out there on horses and whips. So you just see stuff that makes you just think like, really, are we really doing this? Like you just over and
Mhm.
over, like, come on, when is enough is enough?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it definitely becomes a question of equity,
Mhm.
and how we are being equitable in some of these things. I don't necessarily think I want a check. I don't think a check is a solution. I feel like, I mean, you hear about it all the time, like, millionaires that win the lottery and they broke
Mm-hmm.
a few years later. Like, I don't want us to be in that situation where we get all this money and we just aren't, financially responsible or fiscally responsible with it. And then we go out and waste it. I feel like there should be something that's put in place that gives us some form of generational wealth that we can kind of carry forward. Because the last thing I would ever want for us to, we, like
Mm-hmm.
Maria mentioned, these 400 years of free work, free labor, and so
Mm-hmm.
now we finally got paid for it from what our, now ancestors have survived and worked for, and
Mm-hmm.
for us to blow that, like that would be the worst thing ever. So I feel like some form of some resource that can be sustainable in the future to ensure that we as a black American people here, will always be in a good space or a good stance of not having to worry about anything economically, based on the work that our ancestors within this country have already put in and done for us. So yeah, yeah, I don't know if check is the answer.
Well, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but just imagine they give you the land, but not the resources to upkeep the land, and then they're gonna tax you for the land. So ultimately, they gave you the land, you can't pay your taxes. Now they're gonna take your land. So who the land goes to? Back to the government as well too.
Yeah.
So when I say the cash portion of it, cash, but if you're financially responsible, cash helps eliminate debt. Cash helps
That's
build
true.
future into businesses and growing of your financial freedom. So that was my whole
That's
think of
true.
the cash part of it. But it just, well, when I think of land, and you don't know how to maintain that land, and some people get the land and they sell the land. So you see that, you just see that so much in families as well too. So
Yeah.
I think the cash part just sets people up for a generation of how to save and invest and build. And the land, I understand your
Mhm.
land portion of it as well too, but if you don't know how to upkeep it, or you don't even have the resources to take care of it, it's back in the system again.
No,
Yeah.
I
You gotta
agree.
have that mentality.
That's true.
And I just
But
feel like the broader
yeah.
sense of, I think about that Dave Chappelle skit, like you
Mm-hmm.
got reparations, all that. So,
Cadillac. Everybody got Cadillac.
so I think that's like for you, Isaiah, because you're like you think like that. So giving you cash, yes, but I think the broader sense of like going across the average everybody,
Mm-hmm.
I think that might not be the smartest thing. It might need to be something like, get a house for,
I got it.
low
Uh-huh.
down payment, like, something to wear something. But I just feel
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
like cash is
And it
it's
could
a
be
little too
anything. It could
much.
be that we don't pay taxes anymore. Like we don't pay income taxes. We don't pay property taxes. Like
Student loans too. Put student loans out
student
there too.
loans. Like it can be some other form. But I don't know if cash in hand is
Mm-hmm.
the solution. So
Mhm.
Gotcha.
I mean, it could be us, getting off, set aside certain rights or access to land in certain states where like, hey, this is just tax free. You just do what you want to here, and
Mm-hmm.
so you have the ability to sell it, within the the Black American community, and it stays within the community, so it never leaves from that perspective. But it has to be something that's gonna allow, like Kim said, to because everybody's not gonna be responsible with this,
That's
whatever
true.
it is, and so
That's true.
I just would hate for us to fumble the bag. So that would be my concern.
Don't phone the bad, y'all.
Yeah, don't phone that. All right, so look, we just wrapped up this book, The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. I just had a discussion about reparations in the state of California and what that may or may not look like, and what that may even look like for the future of just this country as a whole. So,
Mm-hmm.
again, good discussion, good book for this month. Look, we we had a good one this time. I mean, the book and the discussion kind of really just lined up together. So that, that doesn't always happen. So I appreciate you guys for giving that input and insight. All right. So look, it wouldn't be a show without it. Our favorite segment of the show, we have it every episode, which we entitle The Rant. 60 seconds from my good brother. Like, he just speaking his heart. We don't debate him. We don't even we never even know what he gonna talk about. Most of the time he just schooling us and educating us on stuff that we might not even be familiar with. So my brother, once again, the floor is yours. 60 seconds starting now. Go.
In recognition of Black History Month, I want to highlight Eunice Hunton Carter. She was a social worker and soon became the first Black woman in New York State to serve as assistant district attorney. Her investigative work in New York City in the 1930s led to the largest prosecution of organized crime in U.S. history. Eunice Carter was born in Atlanta, the granddaughter of enslaved people. In 1932, she became the first Black woman to graduate from Fordham Law School, and at that time, few lawyers were Black or women, let alone Black women. By then, Carter was already married to a dentist, had a son, but she had no interest in becoming a social mom. Later, she went into private practice and other accomplishments, including committee chair for the United Nations, YMCA, and the National Council of Negro Women. Today, only 5% of U.S. attorneys are Black. Her contributions opened up the door to 1% of Black women prosecutors. Let her story challenge us to break down barriers, strive for greatness, regardless of the limitations imposed by others. And that's that on that.
That's good. That's
Yes,
good. Like, we
yes.
salute you, Black Queen, not only in the
We
month of
salute
February,
you.
but every month.
Yes.
Every month is Black History Month.
That's right.
That's good. All right. So like, just wrapped up the book, had a discussion about reparations, and my brother just killed this rant once again. So Isaiah, tell him what we have coming up for next month.
It's interesting you said about Black queens because we're about to read about another one. In the brim of Women's History Month, we're going to be talking about Cissy Tyson's book, Just As I Am, and you don't want to miss it. L'Oreal, please tell the viewers when they can tune in.
You guys can tune in every third Thursday right here with us at Four Friends in a Book, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
And make sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you love our podcast, leave us a review on your favorite podcasting service.
Absolutely. Once again, guys, we just thank you for rocking with us here on Four Friends.
Thank you.
And as always, let's continue to read, let's learn, let's grow, and let's have a discussion right here on Four Friends in a Book. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.